You're in the 06010 Focus. Fantasy Focus.
What's good, friends? Welcome into Fantasy Focus Football presented by Wingstop alongside Field Yates. I'm Daniel Dopp.
That's it.
That's it for today's show.
Lone Wolves.
I'm kind of confused. Where do you think Mike is today? Because he already bought a couch.
Yep.
He already bought a car. I don't know what else a man needs in life.
Taking a lot of vacations as well this season.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out. He's probably watching the show at least.
You know, it's week 14, playoff week. So final week of the regular season. Yeah, we're getting right there. But I just want everyone to know the Field and I really care about your fantasy squad. We show up every day. It's important to us that you get all the information you need. So
it kind of does feel like the playoffs this week, though, by the way, because there are very few leagues. I guess I have one where it would be virtually impossible for me to move. Like there's my range is basically first or second.
Yep.
No big deal. Right. It would take I'd have to lose and somebody would have to outscore me by like 175 points for me to not be a top 2 seed.
Sure.
But a lot of my leagues, like in the War Room, for example, the range for my team, I've clinched a playoff spot. There's 8 teams that make it. The range is as high as 3rd and I think as low as 8th.
Wow.
So it does feel sort of like, and I'm, that league, there's no buys. Like you're just happy to be in it. Again, fantasy football is this weird beast, 16-team leagues. Like there's really not a team that you're like, they're so far ahead of everybody else that you just assume they're going to win the league. Yeah. That the seeding in that league doesn't usually matter as much to me. But it feels like every league I still have something to play for, and I'm treating it like the playoffs for those leagues this week.
I have one league in which I am en route for the potential loser punishment. The only league in which that's a thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that one works out. But I mean, even though it is week 14 and it is the final week of the regular season, for some people, this is just like the playoffs because it's either you win this week or you go home.
Yeah.
Like if you need to get a win to get in the playoffs, this is it, obviously. So lot to be able to talk about. Very excited to be able to do the show with you today, Field.
Do it. Yeah.
Are you going to be okay not being the center of attention? You and I are off at like the side here. You're not
I
the
get a
center
better
anymore.
view of you. This is an upgrade.
Look at you. Stop it. All right. Quick shout out to our friends over at Trophy Smack. Visit trophysmack.com. Use the promo code FOCUS10 for 10% off your order. Get this beautiful belt or a toilet seat or a chain, whatever you want for your league. A lot of good stuff over there, trophysmack.com. And shout out to our buddy Eric Moody. Follow him on social media at Eric N. Moody. He is in our YouTube chat, as he always is, every single day, answering your questions as well. So
I just texted you, by the way.
Oh, I can't wait.
You won't see it for probably several hours. But
yeah,
maybe someone had sent me something that I needed to send to you, and before I forgot, I sent it.
Perfect.
To you.
I love
you're watching the show, and you're like, "Why does Field have his phone?"
That's why.
Yes.
All right. Well, you're not. I was going to try to do a transition there.
It's okay.
I was going to do a transition. Mark Andrews got something sent to him last night, which was a really nice gift basket from the Baltimore Ravens. A little bit of news before we dive into some fantasy stuff here. I was so surprised by this deal. Mark Andrews is going to get a 3-year extension worth up to $39.3 million with $26 million guaranteed at 30 years old when Isaiah Likely is on the bench behind him.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting dynasty conversation here because one of the more intriguing buys in dynasty at the beginning of the season was Isaiah Likely because it felt like Andrews, who's going to be a free agent or was going to be a free agent after the season, was probably off for a different team. That's part of the reason why the Ravens drafted Isaiah Likely when they did, was he could one day be their successor to Mark Andrews. The Ravens, until yesterday, had 0 tight ends under contract for 2026.
Wow.
Him, meaning Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely,
Charlie Kolar,
and Charlie Kolar, is sometimes referred to as Charlie Diet Kolar in the War Room. So I thought about him for the Raheem Sanders pick of the day, by the way. All going to be free agents, and I think there were some people that just assumed whatever money they were going to allocate would go to Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, the young one of the group.
Yeah, Likely. So on the one hand, you're saying to yourself, like, oh man, like Isaiah Likely not going to be the Ravens tight end 1 next season. On the other hand, it does mean he's probably hitting free agency.
Yeah.
And he'll get a good contract for sure. He's a very talented player. And what was surprising about the deal yesterday is typically extensions are best served when you're paying a player for what you expect him to be as opposed to what he has been up to this point.
Yep.
When you're the all-time leader in receptions and receiving yards and receiving touchdowns like Mark Andrews, I think it's impossible to ignore that there is an element of like rewarding a player who has been an all-time Raven. But it felt a little heavy-handed to me. Yeah. And it probably means that if you have Isaiah Likely in Dynasty, he's going to be catching passes from somebody besides Lamar Jackson next year.
The question is, who is it going to be, and what's that going to mean for you next year once we figure out what that is?
The hope, I think, is that Likely just goes somewhere that if they're willing to pay him what he wants, which is a lot of money, that's a team that does not already have a tight end in the cradle, right? If you're a team that already has a solid starting tight end, you're probably not allocating more than $13.1 million per season, because I don't believe Isaiah Likely would take a deal less than what Mark Andrews just got.
I would agree.
30 years old, as you just mentioned, 9 yards per catch, right? Like a player going the opposite way of where Isaiah Likely wants to go. Likely has not been great this year, but I think he's betting on his upside. So perhaps he finds greener pastures somewhere else, money-wise, he certainly will.
Sure.
And maybe he goes to a competent quarterback that can help him reach a lot of value that we hoped he would reach with Lamar.
Yeah, it'll be interesting this offseason to see where he goes and what that means for his dynasty value for all of us sickos that want more than just redraft leagues in our life. You got to have a little bit of dynasty love. I want to talk about one more quick thing. Sounds like Justin Herbert is going to give it a go this week. Stefania Field. Stefania on Tuesday outlined kind of what that hand injury looks like, what he's going to have to play through with like the plate that he's going to have over top of it and whatnot. I just want to say this, with him now officially sounding like he's going to go, no questions at this point.
Yeah.
Does it change the way you're approaching any of these Los Angeles Chargers pass catchers? Because
I'd been ranking them as if Herbert was going to play. I think he still has his right arm, right?
Yes, that one still is there. It's attached. It exists.
So as long as that remains the case until Monday,
you feel pretty good.
I expect Justin Herbert to play. He's one of the toughest players in the NFL. He has played through a ton of injuries. I'm continuing to rank the guys as I would if Herbert were playing.
Knowing that you have just played more football in life than I have, have you ever taken a snap under center from a center to know what it feels like?
Yes, I have.
Like did they give you like the full 100%? This is what it's like.
Yeah, like when I was working for the Patriots back in the day, and my first job was basically being a ball boy. Like I would take centers during the quarterback center exchange, which is how every practice begins for quarterbacks and centers. They practice taking snaps from under center and from shotgun. But sometimes during training camp, you might have 4 centers and 3 quarterbacks practicing that day.
Stop.
So when they needed an extra quarterback,
you're the 4th quarterback?
They'd bring me aboard.
You're the 4th Patriots quarterback.
I was the 4th Patriots quarterback.
Wow.
And the part that just blew my mind, and even more so when you threw the football, but like just from taking 15, 20 snaps, you would get pink from the football, right?
Really?
Like fresh leather on your hand, on your palm.
Smack.
Now, nothing compared to, this is a throwback, deep cut. For those that remember this player, shout out to you. Rohan Davey was a quarterback that was one of the many Tom Brady backups during Brady's tenure in New England. He went to LSU. He was gigantic. And he threw the football harder than any quarterback I have ever been around in my life. I would catch the ball. Sometimes I would be his warm-up catcher. And the ball would like reach my hands, and if I did catch it, my body would go backwards. The momentum would carry me basically to my heels and sometimes knock me over. Rohan, he was a huge guy. Every player has a designated weight the team wants to keep him under.
Sure.
And in order to motivate him, because sometimes his number would be above his designated weight. When he was above it, Belichick would make him wear number 73 to practice.
Stop it.
So he had an offensive lineman number until he got
under
needed weight.
Wow.
Yes. So it was it worked because he got underweight, and he had an absolute hose of an arm back in the day.
Well, I have never envied people that have to take a snap from under center. Not only do I not want my hand in the swamp, but it feels like having the ball come back at the speed that it does seems like it would be a lot. So I was just curious.
They'll play a lot of shotgun.
A lot of shotgun for Justin Herbert.
So Bradley Bozeman got to be rock steady there as the shotgun snapper for the Chargers.
All right, we're going to dive into our Week 14 preview, Part 1. Field and I each brought a couple of extra topics to the table since no Mike Clay today. And Field, I'm going to start with you as we go back and forth.
Yeah, and we have a lot to get to because we have only 2 of us. What's your confidence level in Joe Burrow going into Week 14?
Confident enough.
Okay, confident enough, because I was thinking about this for maybe next week's content, is that when you're in the playoffs, in some ways the best way to talk about players is just like you categorize them as such. You're starting these guys.
Yep.
You're likely starting these guys. You're maybe starting these guys. You're not starting these guys, right? Yep. And I think Joe Burrow falls into the bucket of you're probably starting him going into this game because of what we saw last week, and he is Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
That being said, of note.
Okay.
And if you're counting on Joe Burrow for a monster Week 14, might not be the case. He is Joe. He can do it. But my confidence on like a 1 to 10, 10 being like I'm starting him and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, it's a 7.5. Here's why. Buffalo, over the last 11 games, has allowed just one quarterback to reach more than 15 fantasy points. That was Baker Mayfield, who got to like 16.9. So it wasn't a monster night. The only huge day against the Bills defense this entire year for a quarterback was Lamar, Sunday Night Football, all the way back in week 1.
Yeah.
Even Drake May, who he threw for like nearly 300 yards. He was money, but it was like 289 passing yards and like 15 rushing yards, just with 0 touchdowns accounted for. I think it was like 3 or 2, like 2 Ramondre Stevenson touchdowns or something. Anyway, the Patriots did not score a touchdown off of the arm or the legs of Drake May. He played well, and I was looking at some of the notable quarterbacks they've played.
Yeah.
So his fantasy day could have been a little bit different, but the Bills have been really good all season against quarterbacks, save Lamar Jackson. And of note, the Bills are back to their old Sean McDermott ways. They have allowed the fewest passing yards per game in the NFL.
Yeah.
So no defense is stingier against the pass. That's what the Bengals want to do. I'm starting Joe Burrow. I have him in just one league, and I'm starting Joe Burrow in that league over C.J. Stroud and Baker Mayfield, by the way. But I'm also preparing for the possibility of Joe Burrow maybe having 215 passing yards as opposed to the hope for 315 passing yards.
Yeah, I feel good enough about it after what I saw in his first week back.
Yeah.
Like knowing that was the return. Also, he didn't have T. Higgins. He was playing with a little bit of a depleted wide receiving core based on what he's used to. Didn't turn out to be the Mike Gesicki game that we had all hoped for, unfortunately, in that one.
Yeah.
But I do feel like this one, in spite of all of what you've laid out, it's a good thing as like a reminder. Hey, let's temper expectations. The guy just came back. Maybe we're going to temper our expectations. But given that he still has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Chase Brown.
He was limited yesterday, so hasn't cleared fully, but has a chance to clear by Sunday.
Yep. I still think I would have him at the back end of my top 10 options this week. Where do you have him?
Yeah, he's actually up at 4
Oh, you have him at
for
4.
me.
I have him at 6, so outside my top 5. But
keep in mind this week, no Drake May. We've got Patrick Mahomes going up against
Texans.
Lamar Jackson, no longer this guy that you're like, yeah, you got to start Lamar Jackson. I mean, you should start Lamar Jackson most likely, but for a while it was almost Jaden Daniels is iffy. If Jaden Daniels does play, by the way, he practiced yesterday, he would jump ahead of Joe Burrow for me. The point is that, remember coming into the season, it was almost like, who is quarterback 6, right? Because we had these 5 guys that were unimpeachable top 5 quarterbacks.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts has probably held up. Him and Josh Allen have held up the best out of those top 5.
Definitely.
But like Jaden's been hurt, Lamar's been hurt, not good, and then Joe Burrow's been hurt as well. So there's not a quarterback getting to quarterback 4 or 5 in the rankings in a given week is more plausible than you might realize, especially in a week when Drake May's on a bye.
I feel like that quarterback 6 was one of either Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix, or Patrick Mahomes, who we may talk about a little bit later on in the show.
Yes,
today,
we will. And Mahomes has probably been the best. However, some concerns for this week specifically. What do you got next?
Is Emeka Ibuka, I think I talked about this last week, but like, is he still a lineup lock after yet another dud in week 13? I believe I talked about him last week, or it was 2 weeks ago.
No, but just lay out the numbers again because it's pertinent.
Another dud last week of 8.2 fantasy points. 6 of his last 7 games, he has scored under 10 fantasy points. Under 10 and 6 of 7. This is a guy that started out so unbelievably hot for fantasy managers. We thought we had something for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And if you just looked at the fantasy points, you'd probably be like, okay, 6 of the last 7 under 10. Like, I'm out. I can't keep doing this anymore. But he has 8 targets in 6 straight games.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, the volume that he has is unreal. Wide receiver 4 since week 7 in targets. Wide receiver 4, but wide receiver 37 in points per game over that stretch. So I feel like this is one of those situations where it has been bad. Just period. You have been starting him, and he has been disappointing you. The hard part for me is when you have 8 or 9 or 10 targets every single game, not just for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but for a month and a half in a row. How do I quit that player in fantasy football?
You probably can't. And so I think he's still going to be inside your lineup. The matchup doesn't really scare you.
Low end wide receiver 2, probably.
I think
high end flex.
There. Yeah, put it back into the pretty confident level, right? Like, this is not Jamar Chase, but this is pretty confident. Probably going to be starting.
Side note, since week 7, he's averaging 10.5 fantasy points per game. Not great.
Not great.
Over that same span, Justin Jefferson averaging 10.6 fantasy points per game. Emeka Ibuka and Justin Jefferson since week 7 have been the same player, which is crazy.
And obviously, Jefferson has gotten, league bottom of the league quarterback play. Ibuka has a very good quarterback. We agree on that.
Very much so. Very much so.
There's a part of me, and I so coming into the draft, I had Emeka Ibuka like right on the border of being a first round pick. He was like somewhere between like like 33rd, 34th on my final big board. I really liked Emeka.
Yeah.
I thought he was like a perfect number 2 receiver in the NFL. Like just ideal. Not this incredibly fast player, pristine routes, dependable, catches almost everything that comes his way. And then at the beginning of the season, I'm like, oh my God, did I just like totally miss the boat on this guy? Like, what did I miss? I watched a ton of him. He was at Ohio State for 4 seasons. He had the most catches in Ohio State history. I know Emeka really well.
The first couple of weeks, he was a wide receiver too, because Mike Evans was still participating.
And so, now that what we've seen over the past few weeks makes me feel, and I could be proven wrong this weekend, I could be proven wrong years 2 through 3 of his career. Like, I think he's probably the ideal number 2 in an offense.
A top 2.
But like really strong number 2.
Right.
As opposed to top 7 to 8 wide receiver, which for a while it felt like he was a top 7 to 8 fantasy receiver this season. Still going to be in the lineups that I have Emeka Egbuka, but I feel you. The value has definitely dropped.
Agreed.
Another rookie that I'm interested in this week is Quinton Judkins. And it's not that Judkins has been unbelievably great or unbelievably bad of late, right? He had that, but I want to point to a game that he played just a couple of weeks ago against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
In that game, Judkins had 2 touchdowns. Do you know what the over-under is for Browns-Titans this Sunday?
Browns-Titans, probably 37.5.
Ooh, wow. I wish. 33.5.
Oh, my gosh.
33.5.
That's brutal.
The Browns are 4.5 point favorites.
What?
4.5 point favorites in a game that has an over-under of 33.5. So you do the math on what that means, Daniel. That means the Browns, like implied total is what? 19 fantasy points? Yeah. Or 19 NFL points.
NFL
so the
points.
implied total in this game is 19 Browns, 14.5 Titans, right? Low scoring affair is what we can agree upon.
Gross.
The game script should be really favorable here for Quinton Judkins.
Yes.
Right? I'd be surprised if the Browns are playing a game in which they're trailing by a lot. On top of that, the Titans do allow 128 yards per game on the ground.
Love that.
Dylan Sampson is day-to-day right now with a calf injury. I don't think that Dylan Sampson's presence totally changes my confidence in Quinton Judkins. But if you told me on Sunday afternoon we're talking about 115 yards and a touchdown or 2 for Judkins, wouldn't be surprised.
If it's not Dylan Sampson, Jerome Ford is just going to step right into that pass catcher.
He's going to be that guy
right?
once again. Yeah.
So, like, even if there's no Dylan Sampson, it's not like Quinton Judkins is going to develop like a mini pass catching role all of a sudden. Like, I
don't think
he's,
so. Yeah.
He's kind of the same with where he's at. So I
know you're kind of counting on a touchdown, but if ever there was a Sunday where you're like,
against the
you
Titans,
might get 2.
Yeah.
You can get 1 for sure, but you might get 2. This might be it.
If you're the Cleveland Browns and this is a matchup that you have, I know you want to see what you have at the quarterback spot. They got to figure out before they go into next year because they're going to have a very high draft pick next year. They got 2 rookies that they drafted. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Deshaun.
Yep.
So they've got a lot to figure out here. But if you're trying to like game script the right game for the Browns against the Titans, isn't it as much Quinton Judkins early as possible to not make Shedeur Sanders have to play from behind?
Yeah, as much as you can.
That's it. Let the defense and the running game carry you. Put your young quarterback in good spots. Let him make smart decisions, not have to go out there and play over his head.
And by the way, the last time we saw this kind of game script, I mentioned those 2 touchdowns against the Raiders. At least one, I believe both of those were on Wildcat formations from the goal line. So
they've been doing
you're going
that.
to see a lot of Judkins, no matter who is playing quarterback for the Browns when they get in close.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Ronnie Brown, like the original Wildcat running back.
8 Dolphins, I think it was.
Yeah. I know it was in the college football well before it was the pros, but like
in the pros that year, they threw the Patriots off. Remember? It was the Dolphins. I think it was against the Patriots up at Gillette, and it was like the ultimate curveball.
It was. No one was ready for it, did not know how to handle it. That
was sweet.
That was fun. Yeah. You know what hasn't been sweet? Khalil Shakir over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, what are you doing there?
It's been tough. Last week against the Steelers, 1 catch, 5 yards on 4 targets. This was the guy that I have been talking about. He is the most consistent player, it feels like, for the Buffalo Bills. I have a full screen of his game log since week 8. I asked our producers to put together.
We're
going to see if he had a bye in week 7 for what it's worth. All right. So coming out of the bye, we're talking about week 8 on. Here's what he's done. 6 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown, 20 fantasy points on 7 targets in week 8. That's a great game. 8 targets in week 9 for 7 catches and 43 yards, 11.3 fantasy points. Week 10, 9 more targets for another 7 catches, 12.8 fantasy points. So 7 targets, 8 targets, 9 targets. Then week 11, he has 1 catch for -3 yards. Then week 12, he has another 10-target game. 10 targets for 8 catches on 110 yards, 17 fantasy points. And then week 13, back to whatever is going on in Buffalo that I don't understand. 4 targets for 1 catches for 1.5 fantasy points. So what do you do? Because you look at those other games and you're like 7, 8, 9, 10 targets. That's unbelievable. Sign me up for that because no one else is establishing themselves in this receiving core.
I think the good news is this. You probably drafted Khalil Shakir to be a flex, right? It wasn't
probably did.
If he was your wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, hopefully you just nailed your running back and quarterback and tight end spots, and it doesn't really matter, but you probably drafted him as your flex. And so that what I think it means is this is the week, and this applies definitely in the playoffs too, but in some ways this is a play-in game in week 14. Know your needs.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you need to score a lot of points this week, and you have somebody else on your bench that has some volatility to them, but has more upside than Khalil Shakir, because you saw even during those busy weeks, like 20 points is not really in the bag of Khalil Shakir very often.
Not very often. Like the 12.5, 13.5, like that's sort of where he lives.
Maybe you're the 3rd place team in your league and you just need to get 12 points, and you like if you have a steady week and you hold serve against a team that you're a favorite against and you win, you guarantee yourself at minimum a top 3 seed or a top 4 seed. If you lose, you might fall down to like 6th or 7th. Like maybe play Khalil Shakir.
Yeah.
You know, like play the safe and steady guy. I think this is one of those weeks where you have to know your needs based off of your matchup, because there's not a lot of indicators one way or the other in terms of how busy he is going to be. But it's a good matchup against the Bengals, who have played better defensively over the past 2 weeks, but not good enough that you're totally scared of this Bills passing.
So that's the weird thing about this Bengals team. Did you know that the Bengals have allowed the 6th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers? But I don't think that's because they've been that great. It's because every team runs the ball for 680 yards every game against them.
And they have been legit over the past, like Drake May was solid, but he wasn't dominant against the Bengals. He had a pick 6, and then Lamar Jackson had a pick 6 as well against the. Was that a pick 6 or was that a fumble on the 1 yard line?
I think it was a fumble.
Yeah, but whatever. Either way, the Bengals cashed in pretty quickly, and they have made 2 of the best quarterbacks look a little bit uncomfortable over the past 2 weeks.
With 4 teams on a bye, Khalil Shakir is going to be my wide receiver 24 this week. So in that flex radar. By the way, last week, the only guy that caught a touchdown from this team was the one person who was a healthy scratch over the last 2 games, which was Keon Coleman. I don't know how to figure out what's going on there. I actually think the number 2 pass catcher here that we have ranked is going to be Dalton Kincaid. He's a top 10 tight end for us because of this matchup.
And we think he has a chance to play this week.
We're going to keep monitoring that. Yep.
Next up for me is the Bears. Let's go to the Bears and the Packers. I can't wait for this game. Obviously, we have a huge game tonight involving your team. Another huge one on Sunday afternoon, 4:25 Eastern time. These teams play twice in 3 weeks, so they'll play each other this Sunday and then 13 days later. So 3 NFL weeks, but 13 real-life days. Are both Bears running backs startable, or should they both be benched? It's tricky here.
Yeah.
The
Packers are good.
The Packers are good. The Packers have allowed the 10th fewest fantasy points per game to opposing running backs.
Wow.
The Packers are one of 8 teams to hold opposing running backs or opposing offenses under 100 rushing yards per game. Like they are stout against the run. They're also stout against the pass. It's just a really, really good Packers defense.
I thought they traded away their good defensive tackle in order to get Micah Parsons.
And they're still just good. They're still really good.
Okay, all right.
Monangai has scored. Kyle Monangai has scored a touchdown in 4 straight games.
Yes, he has.
At some point, the clock will strike midnight. He will not score a touchdown every single game. These guys are playing comparable number of snaps. As we have talked about, I think, last week and also on Monday, like it's not a ton of receiving volume that's catalyzed DeAndre Swift. He just ran awesome against the Eagles on Friday.
Yep.
I give the slight edge to DeAndre Swift versus Kyle Monangai, which is offset in this regard. So DeAndre Swift, I think, will play slightly more snaps. Slightly.
Yeah.
And might see a couple of carries extra, plus a couple, like 1 to 2 targets more. Monangai, of course, is the better bet to get a goal line carry. These guys are really close, though. They're both, I think Swift kind of flirts with low-end RB2, and Monangai is like, if you need a running back flex, he's on the radar, but you really need 60 rushing yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Which they can get because 280 rushing yards against the Eagles shows that no matter how good your run defense is,
Absolutely.
the Bears' run offense just might be that good themselves.
No, I am with you on that. If you told me that Monangai had 45 to 55% of the snaps and Swift was in like the 55 to 60% range, like they're within like 10% of each other.
The threat here for Monangai is pretty simple, though. It's like, does he get 45 rushing yards and 1 catch and no touchdowns?
And no touchdowns.
And you could get a 6.5 pointer as opposed to a 12, 13, 14 point game.
That is well within play, my friend, unfortunately. I'm going to talk about another running back here on the other side of the league in the AFC, RJ Harvey, taking on the Raiders. Last time he saw the Raiders, he was a backup.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins was the starter there. He had, for what it's worth, RJ Harvey, 4 rushes for 9 yards, 2 catches for 9 yards. So there's not a lot to be able to take away from the last game that he had against this defense, even though it was week 10. It wasn't that long ago. J.K. Dobbins had 18 carries for 77 yards, was injured in the third quarter of that game. Last 2 weeks as a starter, though, this is what we've seen from RJ Harvey. 14 touches and 16 touches, including 2 touchdowns last week from that perspective. I've liked having a nice little pass catching floor from him as well over the last 4 games. 5 catches, 2 catches, 3 catches, 3 catches. Not a ton, but a nice little to give you a little bump here from that standpoint. Since their week 8 bye, the Raiders are allowing the 9th most points per game to the running back position. So again, feels really nice for RJ Harvey. I think in this situation with where he is at now, there's a lot in this Broncos offense that I just don't really understand. Passing game is kind of all over the place. I love Bo Nix. We've talked about this already this week on the show, but it feels like if they can get RJ Harvey in that 15 to 18 touch range against this Raiders team, given what the matchup is and the way that he has been utilized, I really like him as a mid-tier or low-end RB2 this week. And he's going to keep being, I think, in that same realm, like that range, give or take, as a guy once we get into the playoffs.
Their schedule gets really interesting. Starting next week, they play the Packers. So we just talked about that Packers run.
See how that works out.
It'll be a good challenge for the Broncos next week. That game is the National Fox game in Week 15. Oof. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Do you have him as a RJ Harvey, though? Would you see him as a top 15, 20 guy?
RB 13. A little bit ahead of both you and Mike, who are at 15.
Love that.
16, respectively.
Like him, hopefully with the matchup, he's able to get in the end zone this week.
Do you trust a single player on the Steelers offense?
What am I trusting them to do?
Good question. Disappoint?
Yes, I trust many of them.
Let's talk about the two.
Everyone except for Darnell Washington, because he never disappoints, baby.
Let's talk about the 2 most important players in this offense for our purposes, right? Because we're talking about Jalen Warren and DK Metcalf.
Bam.
Over the last 6 games, Jalen Warren, who felt like coming into the season or at the beginning portion of the season, one of the better values, like the unsexy but like useful RB2s. Over his last 6 games, 11.9 fantasy points per game. Not terrible.
No. Hasn't buried you, but it hasn't won you any weeks either.
But he has not been the guy. Like, he is a lowest end RB2 here, as opposed to a guy that we thought for a while could be a low end RB1.
Can I mention that it's actually more frustrating than what we're leading on, because in the weeks where he wasn't there, his backup running back dominated in a way in which Jalen Warren hasn't been able to do this year.
That's right. Kenny G has had some absolutely monster games, while Jalen Warren has not. Warren has not yet reached 20 fantasy points in a game this season. What I think is more concerning, though, over the last 6 games is that his role has really shifted, where one of the ways in which you felt like Jalen Warren was going to be money in the bank is he's an awesome pass catcher. He did a lot of that when Najee Harris was the lead back.
Yep.
Jalen Warren has 44 total receiving yards over the past 6 games. Do the math on that. 44. That's just over 7 receiving yards per game, right? 44 total receiving yards is like a solid half from Christian McCaffrey. That's 6 out of 17 games played for Jalen Warren.
Oh my gosh.
So we have really seen the bottom fall out because of the lack of receiving upside here for Warren over the past half dozen games. So still going to be inside our top 20 for running backs. Another week where Steelers have a chance, right? They're still hanging on as that tied co-top seed in the AFC North. He's going to be RB 15 to 25, somewhere in that range, but does not feel as exciting as it did early on in the season, where he was getting great passing volume and just playing really well.
No, we had a lot higher expectations, and Mike kind of laid out why he felt really good about Jalen Warren. And it just hasn't really materialized the way that we thought. I don't want to put that on Jalen Warren. That just feels like the entire Steelers team has just underperformed. Aaron Rodgers has not led this offense to a magical season. Yeah.
Listen, vibes are bad. Really stale offense. Extremely predictable. We can list lots of things I missed during the preseason, and I could spend probably a whole week of shows doing that. So we can if you guys would like that. But one of the things I know I spoke of frequently during the summer was, okay, they signed Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
But, like, is this team really any closer to the top tier of the AFC?
Nope.
This feels like a classic win somewhere between 8 and 9 games. And then if you do make the playoffs, get your butt kicked in the first round.
Mike Tomlin special.
Yeah, it's what they've been for the past 6 or 7 years.
Yep.
Dang it, I did not.
You did it. You did it.
Oh, man. The other player, and perhaps the more frustrating one, because this is a player who's been a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro level player in the past, is DK Metcalf.
I can't believe it's been as bad as it has been when he's the only pass catcher in this offense.
Only guy. And let's talk about how bad it's been of late, because it actually wasn't terrible to begin the season. In the first 5 weeks, and I do believe we have an accompanying full screen for those that are watching right now on the stream or on video. DK Metcalf, weeks 1 through 6, his first 5 games, 12.3, 11.0, 12.2. Okay, none of those dominant, but 23.6 and 19.5 in back-to-back weeks. And by the way, the low watermark in those 5 games, 11.0 fantasy points.
If you get 11 from your wide receiver, you're disappointed, but you're not like, I lost the week because of them.
He was averaging 15.72. And
Yeah.
It was wide receiver 12 in that week 1 through 5 span.
Okay.
In the 7 games since week 6 concluded, DK Metcalf has a total of 2 double-digit fantasy points.
Oh.
We'll quickly read these numbers. 8, 16.5, 2.6, 6.5, 9.9, 14.4, 6.2. That's his fantasy points in each of the 7 games since. 2 double-digit games, 0 20-point games, and he is now wide receiver. He was wide receiver 45 in the span of weeks 7 through 13.
That is gross.
It's you know what, I know that Steelers fans are frustrated for numerous reasons right now. What I think would be most frustrating for me is that the hardest evaluations for me as a fan to get behind are the misevaluations on self-scouting, right? And so it's we're going to spend a ton of money and a draft pick on DK Metcalf. And it feels like right now the Steelers just don't think, Aaron wants to get the ball quickly, right? He's 42 years old. He's been getting beaten up.
Is that DK's game as a get the ball out quickly kind of wide receiver?
Like, I was doing NFL Live when we were talking about DK Metcalf, and they were running some of the recent clips, and it's like drag, slant, shallow cross, speed out. You're like, DK Metcalf, like being utilized like Khalil Shakir?
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And it feels like there's just kind of this oil and water mix for the Steelers offense in a lot of ways, one of which includes DK Metcalf. So can it get better? I don't know if it can get a whole lot worse, but I'm not confident it can get a whole lot better.
Yeah,
I trust nobody on the Steelers offense. Nobody.
I don't think I would. I mean, the only player that I wouldn't feel confident starting any of them, actually.
Yeah.
The only player that I would really want to start, and want is a strong word, would probably be Jalen Warren, just because of the lack of depth at the running back position. I think with how deep wide receiver is, like, I can find someone better than DK this week if I need to.
This is weird. I had a dream last night that Chris Boswell had a record-setting field goal.
Shut up. What a weird dream for you to have.
I thought about just keeping that one to myself, Daniel, and I should probably keep all future dreams to myself as well.
I love it.
But my 3-year-old jumped into my bed last night at like 1:30, and so just one of those nights where you're just like, really?
Yeah.
You can't say no.
No.
She jumps into bed, and she immediately holds my hand, and is like, I like after a little while, I was like, can I let go? And she's like, no. Like, I'm like, all right, you know what? One of those nights, we're gonna do it. So, thankfully there was no late sports last night. I went to bed at like 10:30.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know you know this. I don't even need to say this to you, but those moments are going to be gone so fast.
Oh my God. They're already getting away from me.
And you're like, I can't imagine both being annoyed and also like, this is the most adorable thing that's like melting my heart at the same time.
I had some weird dreams as a result of an awkward sleep pattern last night. Oh man. Anything else from you?
If Chris Boswell kicks a record-setting field goal this week,
I will so have told you.
You will tell me everything about all the dreams that are football-related for the rest of your life. I need you to know that. Last one that I have here. I want to talk about Kyren Williams really quickly. He's in a smash spot against the Cardinals this week. However, we basically only talk about his pass catchers and the quarterback.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about him, and there's been some like developments around his game recently.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that, give Kyren managers a little bit of love. They don't get as many videos about him, but it's been an interesting trend for Kyren this year.
Yeah.
We're going to look at his game log, and I don't have a full screen, I don't believe, but first 3 games,
Okay.
18 carries, 17 carries, 20 carries. It's basic Kyron Williams.
That's great,
That's what he has been. That's what he was with Sean McVay before previous seasons. Then starting in week 4, 13 carries, 14 carries, 13 carries, 12 carries. An entire month, a whole month under 14 or fewer carries. Then they had the bye. Yep. Then they came out, and this is what he did. 25 carries, huge game right out the bye. Then 14 carries, 12 carries, 12 carries, 13 carries. Another month of 14 or fewer carries. 12, 13, or 14 rush attempts in 7 of his last 8 games. Okay. He's not super involved in the passing game and hasn't been over the last 8 weeks. Only 1 game with more than 2 receptions. So if I told you that the offense has kind of come out and said, we want this guy to be healthy for the playoffs, Rams think they're making a deep run this year.
They should, right?
And we've already seen, except for next Sunday, we've already seen Blake Corum start to get a little bit more run here in this offense.
We're kind of trading series right now.
It kind of feels that way, right? Yeah. So when you're looking at this situation, if I told you have a guy that we have seen as just basically a set it and forget it, unsexy RB2. He took over the unsexy James Conner role for a while. But he's getting 12, 13, or 14 carries. That's not enough. And he's not getting any passing game work. That means that it feels like he's become a touchdown-dependent running back in this Rams offense. Now, mind you, this Rams offense gets to the goal line quite often, but they throw the ball to Davante Adams a whole bunch at the goal line.
Yep, that's exactly where I was going to go. And I was reading, I know I mentioned this piece recently on the show, but to reiterate, if you don't already read Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler's Buzz File each week.
Great piece.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I'm almost positive it was Graz who was telling, it was Graz who was writing about this in tremendous detail.
He's a great writer.
He's an incredible writer. Buy his books as well. He will sign a copy for you if you so desire. And he's brilliant. He's incredibly smart, great on TV, awesome guy, great dad. We can go on, and deservedly. And he was talking about the Rams offense, or was talking about conversations he had with Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, Matt's younger brother, and about how they've kind of cracked a code with throwing all of these short touchdowns to Davante Adams. And LaFleur was referencing how, like, the dimensions change a little bit when you're near the goal line. Yeah. There's just natural boundaries that aren't there, right? If you're at the 50-yard line, you're not worried about a receiver running out of bounds or having to block a certain angle that is now in play at the goal line. And so many defenses are allocating big bodies to defend the run. And next thing you know, the Rams have kind of figured out that when you have a player whose release is so consistent as Davante Adams is, and his hands are so good, and Matthew Stafford is so great, that you're just like, all right, like, it's not really a 50-50 ball. So
no, it doesn't feel
that reality has dampened the impact of Kyron Williams a little bit.
Kyron Williams
There's
has
no two ways about it.
8 touchdowns in 8 weeks, but if he was not getting in the end zone with no passing game work and now splitting time with Blake Corum, we would see a very different fantasy running back.
He is, we talked about some of the factors that are in play for Quinshon Judkins. Some.
Yes. No,
in a
very similar.
Way better offense.
Yes.
Way better offense.
Yes.
You're less vulnerable, I think, to like a 12-carry, 32-yard performance from Kyron Williams. However, he's got to have a lot of volume, got to score a touchdown for him to pay off in fantasy.
Yep, I'm with you on that.
But it's a good opportunity for both he and Judkins to do so based off the matchup this weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, Field Yates, those are the 8 topics that we brought to the table today.
Many more coming tomorrow.
With many more coming tomorrow with Mike. We're going to dive into a Thursday night football preview, the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions.
Let's do it.
Lineup locks on the Cowboys side. Feels like the lineup locks have got to be Dak, Javonte, CeeDee, George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson.
I have a hard time arguing with those.
Is there anybody that you would bench right now on the Dallas Cowboys starting offense if you rostered them in fantasy football?
So, bench, no. The factor that we're going to watch tonight is, again, it's all about just like, it's not whether you're starting this player, it's what to expect out of this player. Is the Lions are, on paper, a very difficult matchup. Now, we've seen some running backs go off against your Lions, in recent weeks. We have seen guys have better efforts than you'd expect.
It's crazy to think the Lions have allowed the fewest fantasy points to running backs so far this year with how banged up the defense has been.
They've been excellent stopping the run, or at least slowing down running backs in fantasy.
They've given up some big games.
I should say that more correctly.
Yeah.
So Javonte, though, would be the player that if you're going to flag somebody is, if you get you 12 tonight, and we told you so, that's probably it. But otherwise, all systems go for the Cowboys.
The real questions are on the other side, Field Yates.
That's what I would agree with, Daniel. And I think the most obvious question is if Amon-Ra St. Brown sits and he's questionable. Sounds like a game time decision. I have not seen any reporting this morning to indicate that he is going to play, but it is possible. If he sits, though, are we talking about career night for Jameson Williams? It's an amazing matchup.
Great matchup.
Great matchup for JMO. And keep in mind that last week, with basically no Amon-Ra, we saw the second busiest game of JMO's career.
Yes.
He had 10 targets. That's the second most he's ever had in a game in his career. Number one was when he had 11 targets, week 2 against Tampa last season. You may recall that game. If Amon-Ra sits and you have JMO, I'm putting him into the lineup and playing him.
I am too.
I
There's
think
no
you just
way.
kinda have to. You know?
Even though he has had a couple of duds in recent weeks with no Amon-Ra St. Brown, it feels like he is going to be probably one of the only to-the-moon players in this Lions offense. Him and Jahmyr Gibbs will be the focal points, I would think, of this offense.
It's the process play. Like, if he has 4 catches for 34 yards, will it suck? Yes. But will I disagree with the process? No, because if he's the wide receiver one in an incredible matchup, and I'll talk about his quarterback in just a minute, and the great spot he's in, it's hard to say no to that. This is not some bum. This is a true, bona fide, difference-making wide receiver who just happens to play next to a top 5 or 6 receiver in the entire NFL.
And not just a great matchup. You mentioned how good the Lions have been against running backs, but this week, you're going to be without Terrion Arnold, who is now on injured reserve. They have had some injuries. Kirby Joseph, still not going to be out there, who is one of their all-pro safeties. Going to be another. The Lions very likely could have to keep up in this game, which is
53.5 point over.
We talked about it, yeah. So if that's the case, you feel really good about that. I want to ask you quickly, before we talk about the quarterback spot, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that you roster Amon-Ra, and it's week 14. You got to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
If Amon-Ra plays, we don't know if he's going to what percentage. We don't know if he's a decoy. Like, you've got to make this like gut decision.
I'm playing him.
You're rolling with Amon-Ra because he's Amon-Ra freaking Brown.
That's where I land. And the only way in which I wouldn't is if there's pregame reporting, which is Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to play. The Lions are expecting little. He might give them 8 snaps.
Sure.
But he means too much to them. He wants to be out there. If we get that kind of reporting, I'd probably feel differently, but I expect Amon-Ra to be out tonight. So if he plays, which I think is unlikely, I'm playing him.
You would play him. All right. If he does play, again, which we think is unlikely,
doesn't play.
How would that, well, no, if he does play.
Okay, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
How would that potentially move JMO from like almost a top 10 wide receiver? Is that not going to be?
Still have him in my lineup tonight.
I would agree with that. I just want to make sure.
Good spot here. I mean, we saw what Rashee Rice did last week, and Patrick Mahomes had a good game. He had 4 passing touchdowns. He went off for 29 fantasy points against this Cowboys team, which leads me to Jared Goff, Daniel. I think this is a great spot for Jared Goff.
Great spot.
It's a great spot. So how about this? The Cowboys have, of course, played 12 games, which means they have faced 12 quarterbacks this season. 9 out of those 12 quarterbacks have scored at least 23.8 fantasy points.
What?
At least 23.8.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, in the 12 games the Cowboys have played this season, every quarterback they have faced, with the exception of Jaden Daniels, who scored 17.7 fantasy points, and I believe that's the game that Jaden got hurt, every other quarterback has been above his season average when facing the Cowboys.
No way.
So if you average, and by the way, Jaden got 17.7. It wasn't like it was some terrible game for Jaden, and I'm almost positive he got hurt in that game. So Jaden probably was trending towards another game above his average. Like, the Cowboys give you a boost no matter what. So Jared Goff, to me, doesn't really matter where you rank him. I'm starting Jared Goff tonight.
Even if you don't run the football, you get a boost? Because that's the thing that Jared Goff doesn't do.
Still going to work, because you look at some of the quarterbacks that have done that against the Cowboys, and it has not just been guys who are super mobile. It has been, really, you name it, it's been every quarterback that you can imagine.
Yeah.
But like every quarterback facing the Cowboys, crank them up.
Feels like
there have been a couple of, like, Bryce Young wasn't amazing against the Cowboys, but still more fantasy points against the Cowboys than he has averaged in every other game this season.
That's a guy, too, that's so frustrating to figure out.
Bryce Young?
Yeah. Like, that's just all over the place.
Imagine you're the Panthers and you have to decide on a 5th-year option this offseason on him.
I can't.
You know?
Jared Goff is averaging 17.6 fantasy points per game.
I'll take the over.
That means we will hope for the over here.
I'll take the over
tonight
as well. Listen, I think, do you have any other topics for this game?
The only other thing that I had 2 things that I wanted to just talk about.
Okay.
It's a statement more than anything.
Yeah, hit me.
I'm bummed for David Montgomery.
Me too, man.
I love David as a player. I think he's really good. The stuff he's done for this Lions team and for fantasy managers over the last 2 years. Like, he has been awesome. And this year, the offensive line has impacted him so much. We've seen the gap between him and Jahmyr Gibbs kind of grow, because Jahmyr's got the ability to still play within a bad offensive line and look like a superstar. But Monty has absolutely kind of fallen off the fantasy radar at this point. Rather than be like a trusted RB2, he's like if I like a desperate touchdown dependent flex play is what it feels like,
Yeah, I would
unfortunately.
agree on
And
that,
the
yeah.
Dallas Cowboys have not allowed an opposing running back to reach the end zone since week 8 this season. If
What?
David Montgomery is not getting in the end zone, he is just not startable. I know, I was shocked by that stat.
Wow, okay.
So do you think, last question here for you on these guys, do you think that both Cowboys wide receivers top 15 fantasy points tonight?
Go over top 15.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I think so too.
Yeah, I do.
Unfortunately, their worst game that they have had since week 7 is 11.5 fantasy points. It was 4 for 77, I think, and that was CD Lamb. Like if that's the worst game you've had in basically 2 months is 4 for 77. You're almost at 100 yards.
Yeah.
This offense is just clicking. So I expect both these wide receivers. I wonder if they both can hit 20 against this. Like it would not shock me if both George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb flirted with like a 17 and a half point game and a 24-point game.
I think you and I agree. The Lions secondary, when healthy, still has some questions.
Not great
and
right
it's
now.
not healthy right now.
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned Terrion Arnold and Kirby Joseph, two of their top 4 or 5 players in that secondary. Like that's just a tough reality to overcome.
Yep.
This is a fascinating game for real life. If you go check ESPN analytics, kind of like the leverage of what a win versus a loss means for each of these teams. They both have work to do independent of the results tonight, but it has a little bit of the must-win feel to it, Daniel.
Yes.
It also has the feel of two teams going in the opposite directions, right? The Cowboys are the hot team. Everybody is saying maybe Jerry Jones knew what he was doing the entire time. And
Not
Brian
everyone's saying it, but some people are.
Yeah. Brian Schottenheimer, the overlooked head coaching hire who the Cowboys just kind of stumbled into is maybe the real deal.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Lions, have they lost their secret sauce? And can this team even make the playoffs this year after winning 15 games last season? It's a massive game. I would just ask you this, how are you feeling about the game?
Nervous because it feels like this is a squad that recognizes their backs are against the wall.
Yeah.
And I actually think that a Dan Campbell team with their backs against the wall plays pretty well more often than not. But there are some things that are just difficult to overcome, and having to deal with an offensive line that is not protecting your quarterback or opening up running lanes the way that you expected each of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to be able to fix, especially with a new look defensive front for the Dallas Cowboys here post trade deadline. So we'll see. I saw right now it looks like Detroit is favored to win this game at home.
Confirm that in just a moment.
I am a little bit nervous given how they have played recently.
Yep.
The offense has not had a lot of rhythm or vibe in it, as you could note, and not having Amon-Ra St. Brown, if he doesn't go, doesn't give me the same kind of zhuzh. Super excited as a Lions fan to see Isaac Tesla.
Yep.
But if Isaac Tesla and Tom Kennedy are your 2 and 3 pass catchers, knowing that you don't have Sam Laporta, the other, like your starting tight end is Ross Dwelly, it's going to be
3-point favorites.
It's going to be a tough battle. So I don't feel great about it. Because I'm a Lions fan, I got to take the Detroit Lions in this one, but I will not be shocked if Dallas comes away with the dub.
Because I want to incite our group chat that is composed of
Thank you,
exclusively
Field.
people from Michigan, except
Thank you.
for me. I'll
Yes.
take the Cowboys, and I'll deal with
You
the
hear about it.
repercussions in
You'll
a
hear
minute.
about it.
I'm sure Kurt, Al, the rest of the crew will give me an earful, and I deserve it. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's a big game. This is like, I don't want to say Lions season is on the line, but they're going to be playing like their season is on the line right now with how much they need to win down the stretch just to make the playoffs.
And if they play the Rams when they play the Rams next week,
That's gonna be another
this is
one.
just a really tough 2-game slate for the Lions, but a fun one for sure for Thursday night football.
Let's dive into the Raheem Sanders Monopoly Fund now, as we're going to try to pick a player rostered under 0.1% of leagues that's going to score a touchdown. We did it again last week, Field.
Did it again. The producers are on fire.
On fuego.
How about this? So we are now 13 weeks into the season.
Yep.
We started this in week 2. So we've done this for 12
weeks.
12 weeks. We have picked a player who at maximum was 5% rostered?
At max, they were 1% rostered, right?
Okay. Was it 1? Yeah, it was 1% rostered when we started.
1%
We just
roster
kept
was the start.
chopping it in half.
Yep.
We have had 9 correct picks in 12 weeks.
That's unbelievable.
So we were asking this question, do you need to just tail us every single week, and how much money would you be up? Let's take a look at the full screen here for those that are listening. Here's what it says. It's a list of the correct picks and how much Monopoly money we have won. So producers have 4. They've accrued $100 in Monopoly money. Mike's won 3 times with $80 in Monopoly money. I've won twice with $60 in Monopoly money. Daniel's going to find a pick soon. And hit
Now,
it.
listen, I've technically won 0 times.
Yep.
However, twice this year,
Yep.
I've gone to pick a player. They have already been chosen, and that player has scored a touchdown.
So in spirit, you've already hit twice.
In spirit, I have hit it because I picked a guy. However, in reality, and that's all that matters, is reality, I have not yet hit a player. So this week, I think, might be my week.
And for people that are saying, like, if you've hit it twice and made $60, why has Mike not made $90?
It's a great question,
3
Field.
times is the way it works is if, like, if none of us hit in a given week, that money remains in the pot.
It all stays here in the pot.
So the idea is, if we have 5 straight weeks without hitting a pick,
yes,
and somebody gets it in week 6, that's a big pot that has been building up to that point.
Yeah, it's sort of like back in the I used this reference I think last week. It's sort of like early 2000s cell phone situations. These are they have rollover dollars.
Yep.
So when you don't use all your dollars in one week, they roll over to the next one. So that's how that one's worked out. All right.
So here's, by the way, some of the picks that we have hit this year include Tyquan Thornton all the way back in week 2.
Yeah, I might crush
Producers got Cole Kmet in week 3. Nobody in week 4. I had Xavier Hutchinson for the 2 touchdowns in week 5. I had Tez Johnson the following week in week 6. Mike got Kanata Mumfield in week 7. Producers got Tyler Johnson in week 8. If you're like, who are these names? That's kind of the point of this exercise. Back-to-back whiffs in weeks 9, 10, and 11.
Yep.
And then in week 12, when the pot was $80, both Mike and the producers hit with Mitchell Tinsley and Colby Parkinson. The producers are on a heater right now as they got David Sills last week.
Yep.
So we are looking to add to this pot.
By the way, you mentioned it, but week 12, in which we had gone back-to-back weeks with not hitting, and then the pot was split.
Yep.
That would have been where like one of us took the lead,
Split.
but instead we got a split.
Do the producers have a pick this week? I haven't
sure
heard.
do.
Okay. Who's their pick?
Producers this week are going with tight end Adam Troutman, rostered in 0.1% of leagues.
Okay.
We've been trying to figure out which streaming tight end can be the one right here in this situation. Evan Ingram has been getting more run in that offense recently, but Troutman's still very much involved. So we'll see how that works out. I am also going to go with the tight end field. I already mentioned to you it is going to take a village for the Detroit Lions to beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Night pick. I like
That's why I'm going with back to the well, the Ross Dwelly well. The number 1 starting tight end for the Detroit Lions right now, Ross Dwelly, as their top 3 guys, Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, and Shane Zylstra, are all unfortunately out. So Ross Dwelly going to be the number 1 guy.
I think I had Ross Dwelly on my Dynasty team last year where I also rostered George Kittle. When he was unavailable, Dwelly was stepping into a larger role. My pick is one that I know has been mentioned by somebody at some point during this season. He's got back-to-back games with 4 targets. It's Saints wide receiver Mason Tipton.
Yes.
Mason has been busier with some of the trades and releases the Saints have made. Obviously, Rashid Shaheed gone. Brandon Cooks is gone. Devon Bailey has had 15 targets over the past 2 weeks. He would be a good long shot pick for Sunday's FF Now. But
Love
I'm
that.
with Mason Tipton. I don't know if Mike has yet
Mike has one.
a pick. What do you got?
Yes. Mike's pick, he said, and he wrote out a little thing, so I'm going to read it for everyone here. I am choosing the best modern touchdown maker of the 20th century, Treylon Burks, rostered in 0.1% of leagues.
How much of that was actually written by
None of it. No, he didn't
rest
write
of it's
any
Clay
of it.
Eye?
Yeah, it was all Clay Eye.
Wait, he went with Treylon Burks.
He did go with Treylon Burks. That part is real.
Which is funny, as I thought about that because there was a time earlier this season where sometimes you get inspiration for these picks because the guys have scored a touchdown and you're like, lightning can't strike twice, can it?
It can't.
And whoever it was that I saw, I was like, there's no way this guy's going to score again the following week. And then he did. And I was like, dang it, I should have just picked that player. But Mike looking to see a double dip from Treylon Burks.
I love it. This is going to be very fun to be able to figure out how strong we can close out the season. We've been on a heater.
By the way, we'll see on Jaden Daniels.
I know.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. I know it's only Thursday, but I think Jaden could play on Sunday.
I would love to see that. We will dive in. Hopefully, we will get a good practice report so we can give you guys a couple of updates tomorrow on a few guys that we are monitoring for Week 14. For right now, let's take a couple of mailbag questions here. Field and I don't get to do this very often.
Yeah. Do we have any that aren't about fantasy football, like are about life or about dynasty or something?
First one comes in. It says, "What's your favorite Doors record, Field?"
Yeah, big
There you
fan
go.
of all of them.
All of
They're
the
all
Doors.
great. Yep.
At Jenna Lee wants to know, do I play Jaden Higgins or Adonai Mitchell as my wide receiver 2 to replace Amon-Ra? I have to win in order to clinch a playoff spot.
It's a good
First off,
question, right
if
there.
Amon-Ra plays, you're playing Amon-Ra over both
Yes,
of those
I am.
wide
Yep.
receivers. Agree with that.
I'm going to go back to the AD Mitchell well.
Are you?
Way riskier than Jaden Higgins.
I agree.
But it's a tough matchup for the Texans on Sunday night against
the Chiefs. Yeah.
Chiefs at home, tough place to win. So give me A.D. Mitchell.
Gosh, we've seen it one time from A.D. Mitchell. Like, that's the hard part.
I know. But it was pretty sweet.
It was pretty sweet.
He was a second round pick last year.
I know.
6'2", 215 pounds, 4'3", 640.
I might see the hard part for me is I want to go with Jaden Higgins, who is a second round pick this year.
Yeah,
6'4".
That's
you know,
right.
he's got
4'4", yeah.
He's got,
when you put it that way, yeah.
They're both in interesting spots. Here's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
It's going to be tough. You're going to have to choose whether you like Field or I in this situation. However,
Unanimous.
It's definitely it's a Field situation. I would go with Jaden Higgins just because I think I like the offense and the quarterback a little bit more than A.D. Mitchell's.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a Tyrod Taylor. Now, mind you, Tyrod could just lock in on the one guy that's working for him. But I think I would go with Higgins because we've seen double-digit fantasy points a number of times this year from him. So
okay, sweet.
that's where I would be with that one. All right, next question here from our YouTube chat. This one comes from...
Oh, God.
Okay, this one comes from Boondock. Wants to know Daniel Jones or Lamar freaking Jackson.
I'm going to go to Lamar Jackson. I know it sounds crazy, but a couple of things I want to mention for Daniel Jones. 4 straight games under 17 fantasy points.
Truth.
Which Lamar might be in that same category, but which one of those do you trust more?
I was just going to say.
I think the more important thing here, not that Lamar is like a paragon of health right now, but Daniel Jones had 1 carry for 1 yard last week.
Not good.
He is laboring.
Slow down.
Because of that fibula injury right now. So I'm going to go with Lamar.
I think right now I have Daniel Jones ranked just ahead of Lamar Jackson, but the understanding how impacted his rushing has been clearly because of his leg. Mm-hmm. There's a part of me that feels like this should be the Lamar time. Like this is where you trust him. Okay, I've got these 2 guys. Which one can... I feel like I've got to go with Lamar Jackson. Okay. I love Daniel Jones, love what he's done so far this year, but recently I've seen him fall off to a point. If I have to choose between 2 not as good quarterbacks, I still think I want the one that just has the higher upside. That's a superstar MVP level candidate.
Fair.
So I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson as well in this one. All right, next question that we have. This one comes from Sun Devil, wants to know Stafford or Jared Goff. I mean, Matthew Stafford has been as hot as any quarterback's been.
He's been a little cooler of late, but you're right. Yeah, he's been amazing. Yeah.
You're right. He had 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions this last week.
Wasn't great last week.
Jared Goff in this matchup, man.
I'm going with Jared Goff. I have ranked higher. I don't believe there's a wrong answer here, but I'll go with Goff.
I think, boy, I wish you didn't make me do this. I think I would go with Matthew Stafford. I have Matthew Stafford 1 spot ahead. They're both right next to each other. I don't think there is a wrong answer, like you said. Like
I lean Goff, you lean Stafford.
I would lean Stafford. Man, I can't believe I shouldn't say that.
It's okay. I mean, it's not karmic, right?
I feel bad. Yeah, a little karmic. Like this is where I'm going to hope that we're in a situation where Jared Goff goes off, but Matthew Stafford against Arizona as well. Like they're just absolutely crushing it right now.
Yeah,
so,
they are. Yeah.
All right.
I lean Goff still.
The one thing about Goff, I will say, normally I don't love starting quarterbacks on Thursday night because of just the shortened week, except for this week. They're playing the Cowboys, and it's a full week. So, yeah, we can get behind that. All right, couple more questions here for our chat. This one comes from Benny J. Jr. Are you going to start Devin Neal or David Montgomery?
I'm going to start Devin Neal. I think Alvin Kamara is going to sit. I understand if you want to play it safe because Monty will play tonight, and there's a chance that Kamara plays on Sunday, but Kamara has been removed from our ranks after he missed practice again yesterday. It's that knee injury. I'm going Devin Neal.
I think I probably would too.
Okay.
David Montgomery just isn't doing enough unless he gets in the end zone, like I already talked about. I gave a bunch of reasons why I am unfortunately down on David Montgomery now. So Devin Neal, I mean,
he was fine last week.
Is he going to be the future running back in New Orleans?
Kamara's under contract for next year, and based off of his disinterest in being traded this year, I imagine that means he's back next season as well.
He's like, I will stay a Saint for as long as you guys will allow me to be a Saint.
Yep.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. Another question here from our YouTube chat. This one comes in from Indy Stars, wants to know Jacoby Brissett or Trevor Lawrence.
And I think I have Lawrence ranked just a little higher because the matchup for Jacoby Brissett is
awful.
Brutal. Yeah, that Rams defense is no joke. That being said, logic would tell you that of the 2, which one has a much steadier floor?
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, with 6 straight games now as a top 12 quarterback. I lean ever so slightly to T-Law, though. It's a weekly game, people. It is not a what have you done for me recently game.
Trevor Lawrence this week taking on the Indianapolis Colts again. No Sauce Gardner, so that'll be a thing maybe for them. He's been utilizing his legs a decent amount, here and there as well. So
he's been good. Yeah.
I've got Trevor Lawrence as a top 13 option. Brissett I have outside my top 15, so I'd go with Lawrence as well.
Yep.
All right. I think that's going to do it for our show today, Field.
Yeah, everybody, if the Lions win tonight, tweet at Daniel and say
Yes,
congratulations.
Please. Hey, how great would that be if the Lions get a dub? I would love that.
Awesome.
That would be great. We're going to be back tomorrow. We think Mike Clay is going to show up.
Mike will be back.
We're not totally sure.
Come back.
If he doesn't show up, he is going to be demoted 1 week. Conduct detrimental to the team.
Yes.
We'll see what happens at that point. But assuming we're going to be back, make sure that you come and hang out with us. Today's show was presented by Wingstop. We will see you guys on Friday. Enjoy your Thursday night football.
Thursday, people.
Don't forget to love each other and be kind to yourself, you guys. You deserve it. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow.
You in the 06010.